Hi, my name is Sarah Dowling, and I'm going to read from my book, Here is a Figure, Grounding Literary Form, which was published by Northwestern University Press, and which was recently named a finalist for the Big Other Book Award for Nonfiction. So thank you very much to John Madera and to Big Other. I'll just share a short excerpt from the very beginning of the book. Here is a pattern. The clover leaves of my commute wrap around encampments of tents whose residents lie sleeping. On the subway, my fellow travelers sometimes topple and fall. In the news stories I hold in my hand, there are endless images of people shot. There are stories of employees lying flat, refusing to work, and of others dutifully typing from bed. From my friends, I hear about protesters trained to the ground, blocking access to groves of old-growth trees. I hear about relatives who lie sick, all around the girls on billboards, each one another version of today's odalisque. These recumbent bodies compose a trope. The repeating scenes offer a figuration of our moment and its proliferating crises, seemingly disconnected and too numerous to name. Splayed out, laid low, they vividly, maybe too literally, enact what theorists of precarity describe as the downward distribution of risk. Their prone and supine forms show us how some bodies are ground down. They demonstrate how individuals, populations, and systems get worn out. In their flattening, we see how all that gives liveliness and energy is drained away, flowing elsewhere toward other, more fortunate figures. Time and again, we are told that such precarity is the substance of the everyday. Poverty and violence are the stuff of life. These will always be with us, the sick woman, the murdered man, their poor, tired ilk. We who are for now upright are meant to look past these people who aren't up to the task of succeeding. We who remain standing are taught to ignore those who are laid out, to think that they have failed to rise up and distinguish themselves. But amid the sprawling polycrisis, this attitude is increasingly untenable. Probably it should never have been possible. So what if we really considered the dramatic and mundane posture that all these figures share? What if we took their constellation of repeating positions as a primary figuration of the present? What can these bodies and the network of relations in which they are embedded tell us about the moment in which we're living? What kind of grounding do they signify? What would it mean to consider the idea of representation, to think about what art is and what it does from this position? Let's shift downward from the naturalized stance of the upright, outward-looking, and apparently self-supporting figure toward those who stretch, languorously or painfully, along the horizontal axis. These other, just as human but not as representative figures, and the forces that draw them downward, surely merit analysis too. Their recumbent postures signal so variously. There's the pale lady of leisure, splayed enticingly across her divan. There's the dark loiterer whose idle dozing becomes criminal. There is the dead body, abandoned to its solitude. There is the mass protest where hundreds take its position. The burnout, the tantrum, the unhoused, the unproductive, each of these is packed with recognizable meanings. Tracking their patterns brings figuration itself into focus. Indolence composes a complex image that does not equate these very different social and bodily positions, but suggests the obscured connections between difficulty, pain, luxuriance, and furtive pleasures. I'm interested in what is made knowable and feelable by these figures, in how they transmute ideas into images, in how their interpretable forms solidify and become recognizable. I'm interested in how a system of beliefs and ideas is rendered palpable through them, and in how things would look different if we were to focus first on or with them. I'm interested in how these recumbent figures, whether reveling in leisure or cut down where they stood, show us something overtly, theatrically, not working. I'm interested in how they communicate a crisis in the production and reproduction of life. I'll pause there. Hopefully you're interested in the book. Thank you again to John Madeira and Big Other. This was a little excerpt from the introduction of Here is a Figure, Grounding Literary Form, published by Northwestern University Press.